I was sitting at the Thanksgiving table when my mother said the words that would change everything. My sister's children were arguing over the last piece of pie. My brother was laughing at something my father said. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey, like every other Thanksgiving we'd ever had. And then she looked at me, across the table, with that same patient smile she'd worn since I was a child, and said, "You've always been so good with boundaries, haven't you?" The room went quiet. Not the kind of quiet where everyone stops talking. The kind where the air itself seems to hold its breath. I felt the words settle in my chest like stones. I smiled back at her. I said nothing. But I knew, in that moment, that nothing would ever be the same. The family that raised me. My mother, Eleanor, was the kind of woman who measured her words like flour in a recipe. Every sentence had purpose. Every gesture carried meaning. She taught me to button my cardigan just so, to keep my elbows off the table, to say please and thank you even when I was furious. My father, Thomas, worked long hours at the bank and came home smelling of cologne and stress. He was gentle with me, but distant, like he was always thinking about something else. My older sister, Margaret, was everything I wasn't. Confident, organized, effortlessly maternal. She married young, had 2 children, and somehow managed to make it look easy. My younger brother, Daniel, was the baby of the family, the one who got away with everything. He was charming and restless, always leaving town and then showing up again like nothing had happened. Before that day at Thanksgiving, I thought I understood where I fit. I was the quiet one, the one who listened, the one who made sure everyone had what they needed without making a fuss about it. Margaret was the star, Daniel was the wild card, and I was the glue. At least that's what I told myself. The truth was more complicated than that, but I didn't know it yet. I didn't know that the role I'd been playing was built on something that wasn't true. We gathered every year at my parents' house for the holidays. It was tradition. The kind of thing that felt like it had always existed and always would. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, birthdays. The house was too small for all of us, really, but we made it work. We crowded into the living room. We ate at a table that had been extended with folding leaves. We took turns in the bathroom in the morning, and through it all, my mother kept everything running smoothly. She was the conductor of this orchestra, and we were all playing our parts, even when we didn't want to. The incident. It started with a document. My mother had been going through old files in the attic, she said, sorting through things she'd meant to organize for years, and she found it, a letter I'd written when I was 17 years old. I remembered writing it. I remembered the blue pen I'd used. I remembered sitting at my desk in my old bedroom, the one that had been turned into a guest room by then, and trying to explain to my parents why I was leaving home early, why I couldn't wait until after graduation like they wanted me to. The letter itself wasn't what hurt. The letter was honest. I'd written about how I loved them, how I was grateful for everything they'd done, but how I needed to figure out who I was on my own terms. I'd said I was scared, but also excited. I'd asked them to understand. What hurt was that my mother read it out loud at the dinner table. She held it in her hands, unfolded it carefully, and read my 17-year-old words to the entire family, like they were a joke, like they were something to be analyzed and laughed at. When she finished reading, she looked at me and said, "You've always been so good with boundaries, haven't you?" The room went quiet. Margaret looked at me like she was waiting for me to say something funny, something that would make this all okay. Daniel was staring at his plate. My father wouldn't meet my eyes, and my mother just sat there, smiling that patient smile, waiting for me to play my part. What I felt in that moment, I felt my face get hot. Not from anger, not yet, from something deeper, something more humiliating. It was the way my chest tightened, like someone had wrapped a belt around my ribs and was pulling it tighter. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, loud enough that I wondered if anyone else could hear it too. I wanted to stand up. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something, but I didn't. I sat there. I kept my hands in my lap. I looked at my plate. I counted the peas on my fork. 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought about the blue pen I'd used to write that letter. I thought about how careful I'd been with my words, how much I'd wanted them to understand, and how now, all these years later, those same words were being used to humiliate me in front of everyone I loved. The worst part wasn't that she'd read the letter. The worst part was how casually she'd done it, like it was nothing. Like my feelings at 17 were something to be brought out and examined like a museum piece. Like I wasn't sitting right there. Like I couldn't hear every word. I looked at Margaret and saw the flicker of something in her eyes. Not quite sympathy, not quite discomfort, more like impatience. Like she was waiting for me to stop making this so difficult. Daniel wouldn't look at me at all. My father kept eating, methodically cutting his turkey into smaller and smaller pieces. And my mother just watched me, waiting for me to smile, to laugh, to say something that would make this all okay. I realized, in that moment, what my role was supposed to be. I was supposed to diffuse the tension. I was supposed to make everyone comfortable. I was supposed to say something like, "Oh, that old letter. Can you believe I used to think like that?" I was supposed to play along, but I couldn't. Something in me had broken, not dramatically, not loudly, but completely. Physical sensation. My face got hot. My chest tightened like someone had wrapped a belt around my ribs. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Internal reaction. I wanted to stand up, scream, throw something, but I didn't. I sat there, kept my hands in my lap, looked at my plate. Family responses. Margaret looked impatient. Daniel wouldn't look at me. My father kept eating. My mother watched, waiting for me to make it okay. The realization. I understood my role. Diffuse tension, make everyone comfortable, play along. But something in me had broken completely. The truth I've been holding. I never told anyone why I left home early. Not really. I wrote about it in that letter, but I didn't tell them the whole truth. I didn't tell them that I'd walked in on my father in my mother's bedroom closet when I was 16, going through her things, looking for something, I don't know what. I didn't tell them that I'd seen him take something from her dresser and put it in his pocket. I didn't tell them that I'd asked him about it later, and he'd said it was nothing, just something of his that got mixed up. I didn't tell them that I'd found out later it was money. Money she'd saved for an emergency. Money he'd taken to pay gambling debts he'd never told us about. I left because I couldn't stand it anymore. The lies, the pretending, the way we all acted like everything was fine when nothing was fine. I left because I was 17 and I needed to breathe. I left because I was afraid if I stayed one more day, I would forget how to be honest with myself. And now, sitting at that table, hearing my mother read that letter like it was something to laugh about, I realized she knew. She'd always known. That's why she'd said what she'd said. That's why she'd read it out loud. She was reminding me that I'd left, that I'd abandoned them, that I'd put my own needs above the family. But here's what none of them know. Here's what I've been holding on to all these years. After I left, I found a way to pay back every dollar my father had taken. I worked 3 jobs. I sent money home every month, in cash, in envelopes with no return address. I never told them it was me. I never wanted credit for it. I just wanted to fix what had been broken. And now, sitting there at that table, listening to my mother use my words against me, I realized I had all the power. I could tell them. I could say, "Do you know who paid back that money? Do you know who made sure you never had to worry about it again?" But I didn't say anything. I just sat there. I just kept breathing. And I thought about how sometimes the people who love you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. I've never told anyone this. Not Margaret, not Daniel, not even my closest friends. But I'm telling you now because I need someone to know. I need someone to understand that I tried. I tried so hard to be good, to be the daughter they wanted, to be the sister they needed, to be the person who made everything okay. And maybe I failed. Maybe I left when I should have stayed. Maybe I should have fought harder. But I did what I could with what I had, and sometimes that has to be enough.